I'm going to demonstrate working Fair Isle on Magic Loop. And if all of that sounds like a bunch of mumbo jumbo, I'm talking about when you're working a pattern with a color design in it, and you're holding two strands of yarn in the same row or round, or round in this case, and you're also working on Magic Loop, which is a way of knitting a small tube, like a hat, with a very long circular cord. And usually people knit with Magic Loop because they have a favorite needle set, and the needle set comes with, you know, the shortest cord being 24 inches. And they put a 32-inch cord on there to knit a hat. And that's just, they have that needle set that is their favorite, or the only one they have, and that's what they use to knit it. So right off the bat, I'm going to tell you that Fair Isle is much easier to work on a 16-inch circular. And here's another sample. On a short circular, so that you don't have the cord. Magic Loop knitting is fine and it works really well, but when you're carrying more than one strand of yarn, it can get tricky. You know, for knitting Fair Isle, it is easier to use short circulars. But not everybody has a short circular set, and so it is entirely possible to do it this way. I'm going to help you get through the most difficult part of that, which is getting past the cord and, you know, keeping the tension consistent all the way through. If you, let me back up here because there are a few things here. If you are brand new to Magic Loop, you can click the little I in the upper right-hand corner to go to my website where I'll show you my videos on getting started with Magic Loop and simple Magic Loop. Or if you're on a mobile device, I'll also put those links in the video description field below. And this hat that you keep seeing everywhere, we have a tutorial on this hat next week. It's from Kramer Yarns. And so that's coming out next week, but I wanted to make sure to get this video out for the Magic Loopers before that video comes out next week. Well, let me go ahead and show you, just in case it's still confusing here. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Okay, here we are with my Fair Isle hat, and I have it on a very long, this is 32-inch circular. And the hat can, you know, as I said in the intro, can be really easily knit on a 16-inch circular, but not everybody has every needle cord length and every size needle. And so a lot of people do use Magic Loop to knit a smaller tube with a longer cord. And I can give you a link to my my Magic Loop videos, getting started with Magic Loop and simple Magic Loop, if this is a new concept to you. But this video is more for people who are already using Magic Loop and they want to have good techniques at the cord breaks. Now we have two real challenges when we're working Magic Loop on Fair Isle. The first one is the same that we see anytime we're working Fair Isle or anytime we're working Magic Loop. You pull the back cord long to start knitting on the front needle, and that last stitch, the stitch where the working yarn is, we'll go ahead and pretend right now that I just have one color of working yarn. This last stitch can get pulled far too tightly because it's on the cord and not on the needle. So when you're bringing that working yarn around to knit that first stitch, this stitch can be really tight and angry, the last one on the cord. And so you have to watch your tension carefully not to pull that stitch too tightly when you knit the first stitch. Okay, so that's our first challenge, is a normal Magic Loop challenge. We have the addition of a second working yarn in Fair Isle, and that makes it a little bit more challenging to get both of those working yarns over to the next needle without causing problems. So because I pulled that stitch tightly, I'm shoving the needle back in there to get the stitch a good size. Now, we are just going to focus here at what you'll experience at the two cord breaks. This is the beginning of the round, and this is halfway through the round over here, because the rest of it is just like knitting on anything else where you don't have an extra cord for Magic Loop. So I pull the back needle long because it's time to start knitting on this needle, and I have these two working yarns to contend with. Now, in this situation, my first working yarn's coming from here. My second one is only one stitch back, but it will happen that your working yarn will be coming from, you know, 4 or 5 stitches back, because that's just the way your pattern is. Mine was just knit one stitch before. In either case, you don't want either working yarn to travel from several stitches back all the way over to this stitch. You see what I'm saying? You want to catch the yarn, which is a normal thing we do in Fair Isle, which is by wrapping one stitch over, or by wrapping one working yarn over the other to catch it right here. Now, that said, we have the challenge of not making either of these too short. There are so many things going on, so many things going on to consider. Fair Isle Magic Loop. So you're watching the tension on both of your working yarns this time, and this one I can see is already getting too tight while I'm sitting here talking about it. This one's kind of too loose. So I'm going to watch those working yarns and twist one yarn over the other, and my next stitch in this pattern is going to be green, which is the further away working yarn. So I'm going to twist those two to catch them, being careful not to pull too much, get my needle in place, twist that around, and get that stitch knit. Now I do want to pull it a little bit, right? Because I don't want a giant gap there. So I'm going to pull it and watch that tension. I think I'm going to be okay. And then the next stitch is, it's actually not in the pattern if you're looking at the pattern. I'm just doing this for example. The next stitch is the silver yarn here, and I want to use that and also watch the tension and how I'm pulling on that stitch. Okay, so I've just successfully done that, and catching one yarn over the other is going to keep there from being a stretch from like here to here, which can really mess with your tension. You want to twist the two yarns together anytime you approach the beginning of the round or the break at the round, and then really watch your tension with those stitches on the cord. Now, all of that said, your best bet with Fair Isle on Magic Loop is going to be to use a wool yarn or a wool blend, so that little tension issues at the cord breaks will just block out. It won't be a problem. You'll be able to just get the hat wet, set it out flat to dry, and just kind of ease any little tension issues like that out. Okay, I think that's all the challenges. Oh, one last thing I should say. This hat is coming out in tutorial form next week from Kramer Yarns. So depending on when you're watching this, it might already be out. I will put a link in the video description field to this Fair Isle hat tutorial. And that's it. You kind of want to do that every time, every half round, every time you hit the cord. That's when you have to be really careful, is when you don't have the size of that needle holding that stitch open. I hope that helps, and watch for this Fair Isle hat tutorial next week. Good luck.